Welcome back, War Room fans. Here we are. We're starting our discussion of Great Britain, the UK/Commonwealth. I hate to be the one to inform you, gentlemen, but it is 1942 in the spring. And your once great empire, superpower status, is on the brink of disaster. Britain is a nation in peril. That's how War Room starts out. They are in dire straits. Great Britain in this game is being threatened on all sides at the beginning of 1942. They held out through the dark days of 40 and 41. But when this game starts, Germany is still right on their doorstep. They can take them out at any moment. Down here in Egypt, they held on. They've reconstituted their forces. But Germany's getting ready for the spring of 42 offensive down into Egypt with their Italian allies. The Middle East is in peril. Over here, the Commonwealth, formerly known as the British East India Company, has been lackadaisical as Japan, with like a lightning strike, has taken Hong Kong, Singapore. The Dutch East Indies have all fallen underneath the rising sun. Separating Australia from India, they have been cut into two. Britain, in this game, at any moment, can suffer catastrophic destruction in like the first 4 turns. That, my friends, is how grim it is. And as in real life, 10 years after the end of the war, all of these territories will no longer be under British rule. And a new superpower, known as the United States, will take over the Western Hemisphere. The Empire of France is gone. Spain is gone. Netherlands gone. All the vestiges of a bygone era will enter into the history books to be debated. Scholars will write endless volumes about it. But the lone superpower will arise. But, lucky for us, we're just playing a game. But it is grim. We don't worry about what happens by the end of 1955. We only worry what happens by the end of turn 4 in a game of War Room for Britain. Because it is that grim, gentlemen. By the end of turn 4, Great Britain can be basically reduced to ashes in this game. It's a tough fight for Britain. I highly recommend, and I do not jest, that really only your most experienced players should really play the United Kingdom on the Allied side, because it is that bad. Now you go, come on, Payne State. What are you talking about? The UK is a grand and glorious superpower. They can obviously stave off the Axis horde. Well, let's take a little look at this. How I'm going to approach the UK videos is, and there's going to be, I'm thinking at least 4 videos. Okay, this is just a lay of the land video right now. Kind of getting us set up to kind of set up the series. The UK is basically 4 independent combat theater operations, 4 specific areas on the map. The first area is Great Britain and Eastern Canada. Right off the bat, Germany, if they really want to go after Great Britain on the first turn, they can put a thumping on them. And it will be touch and go if the German player does it right. Okay? We need to explore how to hold the homeland. If Germany does all in on Great Britain on turn 1, we got problems. That's the first theater. The second theater they have to worry about is the Middle East and Egypt. Once again, if the Axis powers go all in on taking Egypt, Middle East, Italy, and Iran, we're in distress. We've got some problems. India. If Japan goes all in on India, we got some problems, serious problems. Over here in Australia, if Japan comes down here in force, hell-bent on taking Australia, we got problems. So, this video series on the UK is, how in the heck do we survive? Because one of the things also about this is 2 of our theaters that we have to be concerned about, Egypt, Middle East, and Great Britain, Germany and Italy can tag team both regions right off the bat. Over here in India, Japan has enough strength that it can go after both India and Australia simultaneous if it so desires. It's not like we're just having to defend one area, like, well, we just have to defend Great Britain or we just have to defend India. No, sir. The Axis powers can basically go at the 4 regions that the UK needs to hold. So we're going to explore, one at a time, defensive strategies and some counterpunch strategies. Because the UK, at the beginning of this game, is not an offensive country. They are holding on for just survival at the beginning of the game. If the UK, in the first 3 turns, loses the Middle East and India, loses Eastern Australia over there, and they start making gains down here, just a couple nibbles into Africa, and depending on your unit losses, you will be in economic collapse by the end of turn 4. And you will cease to be a nation on the brink of mass desertion. And you'll become a ward of the growing superpower because only the United States can bail you out. Okay? Now that I got your attention, we're going to break this video series down into 4. With the 5th one will be my conclusion. We're going to deal with primarily this up here on the first one. How do we defend Great Britain? How do we get Canada involved? How do we start threatening these Axis powers early in the game at the same time just trying to survive? Down here, we will enter the era of nostalgia of Global 40 Axis and Allies. And we will do General Hand Grenades, Middle Earth, War Room style. How do we maintain our strength here in the middle of the map? Because we can't really produce units down there except for India and South Africa. So how do we pull this off? The 3rd video will be primarily just India. How do we hold this place? How do we influence the events not only in the Middle East, but also in Southeast Asia and pushing back the Japanese? The final video will be about Australia and how they can be a thorn in the side of Japan if they let them survive, okay? I've talked about this in numerous videos. If the Axis powers go hell-bent against the UK, you better be ready for the fight, because you literally only have 3-4 turns. And if you don't put up a good fight, you're toast. And you might as well pack up the game and it's all over. So, this is a little teaser for my UK videos, because UK is a big challenge to play. In fact, I would say in War Room, unlike in Axis and Allies Global 40, the weakest power on the map is the UK. And it's all because of the stress dynamics up here. Okay? They can knock Great Britain out of the war without ever having to take Great Britain. Remember, in Global 40, really, all Germany had to do was take Leningrad, Moscow, in this game Volga, and Egypt, and they won the war. They never had to actually go at the United Kingdom. So that made the game all Russian-centric. So when I start focusing in on the Axis powers over here in Europe, I've talked about it a lot when I did the Japanese videos. War Room is not a Russian-centric game. It's a UK-centric game for the Axis. If they can knock the UK out of this game by the end of turn 4 or turn 5, and what I mean by that is once they go into economic collapse, they're done. There is no recovery. And then they just start chipping away to get them into mass desertion, and then literally the UK is out of the game. And they become a war to the United States. And there's nothing the United States can do effectively over here and over here. They can't fight Japan and Germany alone. The Russians are going to help as much as they can, but it's done. So I'm looking forward to doing this series and giving you guys some insights of all the games I've played and some theory crafting on how we can hold the UK and eventually turn them into an actual offensive force against the Axis and not rely on those stupid Yanks all the time, and actually take the fight themselves to the Axis powers. So keep tuning in, guys, and let's have some fun with the UK and talk about some strategies. Talk to you later. Bye.